Greetings, comrades, back with some more Capital. Today we are discussing chapter 25, sections 4 and 5a. 4 is talking about different forms of relative surplus population and the general law of capitalistic accumulation. Basically, here we're talking about the greater the social wealth, the greater the reserve army of labor. We're talking about inverse relationships here. The absolute general law of capitalist accumulation. This just means as the wealthy hoard more wealth, the working class has less. And in my notes, I just wrote, trickle down, once again, defeated. It is such a bullshit lie that we've been fed since Reagan. When the wealthy have more wealth, it does not come down to the working class. They continue to hoard it, and we are left with less. And here we talk about 3 different types of labor, types of worker. They are floating, latent, and stagnant. And again, some of these terms in modern day have maybe rude or mean connotations, and he certainly doesn't mean it as like a judgment call or like talking down to people that do certain types of work. He really is just like explaining how and why things are the way they are and then we can kind of interpret that to nowadays, right? So floating labor, floating workers tend to be fired or laid off. These are your unemployed people and or underemployed. So people that might be working but not enough to make ends meet. This is the floating form of labor. Latent, at least in Marx's time, were agricultural workers, people that work for the lowest wages. And then stagnant is people with very irregular employment, maximum time, minimum wages. These are people that experience extra exploitation. We might call this the lumpen proletariat. And he uses the term paupers, calls them vagabonds, criminals, and prostitutes, right? Also orphans and just people that are unable to work fall into that category. When we're talking about the quality of the means of production, this is like technological advances. This leads to a progressively diminishing expenditure of human power. So better tech means we might work less hard, but it also means we generally make less money because our hours are cut. He talks about how the worker transforms his lifetime into working time, which is just beautifully stated. It's a terrible thing to conceptualize, but it's true, right? Talking about just spending your whole life working for the man is what he's talking about here. Wealth on one side and misery on the other, and precarity is necessary for capitalism. You cannot have a wealthy upper class without an impoverished underclass. It's just what capitalism is. That is how the wealthy acquire their wealth. It is off the backs of the poor and working classes. And then 5a is a lot of charts and just examples from Marx's time, but it really comes down to this discussion of a rapid but slowing birth rate. And the capitalist wants people to have more kids so that they can have more workers. If we think about what that means nowadays, we think about abortion bans and things like that. An accelerating increase in wealth at this time due to profits and rent. So they're accumulating more faster. And this leads to a centralization of land ownership. Again, like landlords buying up everything, which creates more poverty. We also see this nowadays, right? With these large companies buying up all of the housing, things like Zillow that have access to information about what's going to be available quicker, and they buy it first and then they sell it or rent it at a huge profit. And once again, this idea that poverty is a feature, not a bug of capitalism. That's it. Cheers.